They say the eel holds its breath when the sun leans low and the birds grow quiet. In our village, that is the hour when the breeze moves like a small prayer through raffia roofs, when goats nose the dusty ground, and when smoke leaves from cooking fires like thin grey ropes to the sky. It is also the hour when the smell begins. It slips first through the kola nut trees, then into the narrow footpaths, then into the compounds where children stop their games and sniff. Rice, white rice, soft and sweet, scented with palm oil that glows golden in the pot. The smell arrives like a memory we did not know we had, and we all turn, as one body, toward the edge of the village where the footbridge crosses the stream. Mama Nnenna's hut sits by the old footbridge where the stream narrows and turns brown in the dry months. Her door faces west, so the last light always finds her hands. Every evening, she lifts the lid of her blackened pot, steam wraps her face, and the smell runs free. If you walk by, you will see her wooden spoon turning, the way one turns the pages of a story you already know, but still want to hear. She never speaks. Her shoulders, thin but stubborn, move to a rhythm only she can hear, as if someone far away keeps time with a drum you cannot see. People talk because people must talk. Papa Tunde swears that long ago, when he was strong enough to race to the hills and back, he saw a line of shadowy figures near her hut, bowing their heads and waiting. He says their feet did not stir the dust. He says their eyes were like wet stones in moonlight, patient and heavy. Others say he drinks too much fresh palm wine. The elders shrug and tell us not to poke our fingers into things older than our grandmothers. But even the elders tilt their heads when the smell comes like a hand touching the back of the neck. By day, Mama Nnenna moves like a quiet river through the market. She buys little, a handful of salt, a gourd of palm oil, an onion or two wrapped in old newspaper. She greets no one first, but she answers greetings with the soft nod of someone whose mouth is used to speaking to memories. Children dare each other to follow her, but when she turns her face, they remember their mothers and scatter like birds. Her eyes are not hard, they are deep. People who fall into them do not come up quickly. There is a story that she once had a husband who molded clay pots by the stream. They say the river took him one season when the water swelled and the bridge cried. There is another story that she had a son who danced like fire and ran like rain. He too is gone. Whether to the city, the army, or the red mouth of the earth, no one agrees. Stories grow legs and run. In a place where the moon is our watchman and the cock is our alarm, what else can we do but tell stories to fill the quiet? At dusk, when the cicadas begin to sow their thin thread of sound through the palm fronds, Mama Nnenna begins. She sweeps the packed earth with a bundle of broomsticks, then sets 3 stones and balances the pot. The pot is old in the way ant hills are old. Its sides are black with the gifts of many fires. She pours water from a calabash, and here people lean closer. They say she washes her feet in that same pot before the rice goes in. Some swear they watched her lift her wrapper, sit on the low stool, and bathe her legs in the warm water, rubbing the dust from her ankles like a woman washing away long travel. Then she uses that same water to cook. It is a twisted belief that crawls through talk like a thin snake, and it bites even those who do not want to believe. There is a twisted belief in such things. In our village, not all food enters the belly in the same way. Some meals are for strength, some are for joy, some are for memory, and some are for the road between the living and the dead, where feet that have stopped still must be washed for the last journey. The women by the well say that water remembers. They say that feet know the path home. Perhaps, they say, this cooking is a washing of the road. Perhaps those who eat are not always the ones we see. On the evening this story begins, the sky was the color of ripe purple, split and glowing. The smell of rice came sooner than usual, and it carried a low note, like the hum of a drum under a song. Zina, who was 14 and thin as a flute, stood on her father's veranda and sniffed. Her grandmother, Mama Ikeji, sat nearby shelling beans with the rhythm of a clock. Zina had a heart like a goat's heart, curious and steady. She asked many questions about everything. Why do lizards nod? Why do roosters shout at the sun as if they are its masters? Why does the moon change its face like a shy bride? Grandmother, Zina said, is it true that spirits come at dusk? Mama Ikeji did not look up. The world is wider than what your eyes can drink. Eat your food. But is it true? Truth has many doorways. Zina shifted, unsatisfied. The smell was so close, it seemed to braid itself into her hair. She watched a thin ribbon of steam lift above the bridge line. Her feet, of their own mind, began to move. She slipped her feet into her slippers, picked a small gourd and wrapped it in cloth. I'm going to the stream, she announced, knowing that the stream and Mama Nnenna were twins at the hour of rice. Come back before the first frog starts singing, Mama Ikeji said. Zina walked the path between compounds, past the pounding of fufu, past the laughter of boys kicking a rag ball, past the old silk cotton tree where elders sometimes sat to weigh words. The smell grew rounder, warm as a lap. She reached the footbridge and there she stopped because the scene before her did not understand hiding. Mama Nnenna's pot sat upon its stones like a moon on three hills. Steam lifted and curled like hair. The woman's wrapper was tied firmly, her feet bare. She dipped them, yes, into the pot, not into the boiling water, but into warm water that sat first. She washed with slow, deliberate hands, as though removing dust the way one removes the story's first layer. Then she poured a measure of rice, white like teeth, into the water, and the pot began to speak. Zina stood, half in fear, half in wonder. The woman's face, lit by fire, looked carved from long patience and short sleep. Lines ran from nose to mouth like paths on a hill. Her eyes were not empty. They were full of distance that came to live close. Good evening, Zina said, because her mother taught her that greetings are doors that open wells. Mama Nnenna lifted her head. Her voice, when it came, sounded like the sound of a stream under stones. Evening, child, she said. She turned again to stare, and the smell moved like a song through Zina's chest. Who are you cooking for? Zina asked, before her courage ran away. The spoon paused, then continued. For those who remember and for those who must be remembered, the woman said. Zina did not understand, but the words hung in the air like calabashes on a rack, waiting. Behind them, the first frog cleared its throat, and the bridge held its breath. Zina listened. In the weeks that followed, the smell of Mama Nnenna's rice grew stronger. It was as if the wind itself carried it on purpose, weaving through compounds, entering huts, touching people as they ate their own dinners. Even when women stirred their own pots, some swore the smell of Mama Nnenna's rice still rose above theirs, richer, thicker, more inviting. Children often complained to their mothers, saying, "Your soup is good, Mama, but Mama Nnenna's rice smells sweeter." Those words pricked at hearts because no one knew what secrets were hidden in that pot. The market became the place of whispers. Women bent over baskets of pepper and yam and lowered their voices. "She washes her feet in that pot before cooking," one woman said. "I saw it with my own eyes." Another shook her head, her hands busy with smoked fish. "No, she is feeding the spirits." Her husband died by the river and her son never returned. She is serving them. Then yet another added, Haba, that woman is cursed. You think rice can last every day without finishing? Ordinary rice? No, something else is inside. Men gathered at the palm wine tapper's hut and spoke in half-drunken tones. If she is feeding spirits, why do they not trouble us? One asked. Another laughed bitterly. Spirits don't trouble who respects them, but if you cross them, your eyes will see red. The younger men laughed to hide their fear, but even their laughter cracked. No one was truly brave in this matter. Every evening, people waited for the smell of rice. They pretended not to care, but when the breeze shifted, their noses lifted like dogs catching a trail. Some even claimed they saw shadows by her hut, bending close to the pot, eating with invisible hands. Papa Tunde swore again that he had seen men without faces, only smoke where their heads should be. Nobody believed him fully, but still, they crossed themselves when the story was told. Zina heard all these whispers, and her heart grew restless. She could not stop thinking about what Mama Nnenna had told her, for those who remember and for those who must be remembered. What did that mean? She thought of her own mother, alive and strong. She thought of her grandmother, Mama Ikeji, who often said the dead are never far. Could Mama Nnenna really be feeding the dead? The thought made Zina shiver, yet also filled her with wonder. The strangest thing of all was that the pot never finished. Some women in the market swore they had bought rice from Mama Nnenna. She did not sell much, but when she sold, the rice never seemed to reduce. One woman said she filled her calabash twice, but when she looked back at the pot, it was still full, steaming and ready. It is not natural, she whispered to her neighbor. Food must finish. Only spirits eat without end. The children made a game out of it. They would dare each other to run to Mama Nnenna's hut at dusk and pick at the pot. But none was bold enough to stay long. The ones who tried swore they heard voices, soft and low, like people speaking from the bottom of a well. Come closer. Sit with us. Some ran home crying, too shaken to eat their dinners. Still, no one confronted Mama Nnenna directly. Fear wrapped the people like a wrapper too tight for comfort. Some wanted her driven out, but others said, if she leaves, the spirits will be angry. Better let her stay. And so the whispers grew, weaving through the air like the smoke of her fire. One evening, as the sun dropped red into the hills, Zina walked home from the stream with her water pot. She passed two old women sitting under the silk cotton tree. They were speaking in low voices, but the words floated toward her. She cooks for them, I tell you, every evening just as the cock calls the night, one woman said. And she washes her feet inside the water first, another woman replied. That water is not ordinary. It carries something. Whoever eats that rice eats her spirit too. Zina stumbled, spilling a little water from her pot. The old woman turned but said nothing to her. She walked on quickly, her mind burning with questions. That night she could not sleep. The moonlight pressed through the cracks of the hut and the frogs sang without rest. She thought of Mama Nnenna's quiet face, of her bare feet dipping into the pot, of the rice that never finished. She turned on her mat and whispered into the dark, I will find out. I will know the truth. The next morning, as the cocks crowed, Zina told herself she was only curious, but deep inside she felt something more, a pull like a thread tying her to Mama Nnenna's hut. She did not know why, but she knew she could not stay away. And so, while the rest of the village continued to whisper in fear, Zina prepared to step closer to the fire. The wind carried the smell of rice once more, and this time it carried her along with it. Zina was not like other children in the village. Where others laughed and played, she often stopped to think. Where others accepted the old stories without question, she wanted to open them like a calabash and see what lay inside. Her grandmother used to sigh and say, "This child's tongue will one day carry her to where her legs fear to go." Perhaps that was true, for it was Zina, small and curious, who decided to step close to the fire that every other villager kept far away from. The evening was heavy with heat. The sun hung low, and even the birds had grown tired of singing. From her father's compound, Zina could already smell the rice. It was calling her, teasing her, daring her. She held her wrapper tightly around her thin shoulders and walked toward the stream. She walked slowly at first, as though she was only going to fetch water, but her feet were quick, her heart quicker. When she reached the footbridge, she stopped. There, as always, was Mama Nnenna, her fire glowing like an ember in the dark. The pot sat proudly on 3 stones, its lid lifting slightly with the pressure of steam. Zina watched closely. She saw the woman bend, wash her legs gently in the pot of warm water, and then pour in the white grains of rice. The water hissed and swallowed them whole. The smell rose at once, filling the air, wrapping Zina's head until she felt almost dizzy. "Good evening, Mama," Zina said, her voice small but steady. Mama Nnenna turned slowly, her face lit by the fire. "Evening, child," she replied, as she had done before. Zina stepped closer. Her slippers crunched the gravel, and the sound felt loud in the silence. "Mama," she asked, "why do you cook this rice every day? And who eats it?" The woman's spoon paused. Her eyes, deep and dark, turned on the girl. "Curious tongue. Do you not fear?" Zina swallowed, but she shook her head. "I fear, but I want to know more than I want to fear." For the first time, Mama Nnenna's lips curved into something like a smile, though it was sad and heavy. She placed the spoon against the edge of the pot and let it rest. "Sit," she said, pointing to a small stool near the fire. Zina obeyed, though her knees trembled. She sat and hugged her gourd of water close. The fire crackled, and the rice bubbled like talking mouth. Mama Nnenna's voice was low, but it carried the weight of many years. "I cook," she said, "for those who do not live here anymore, for the ones the ground has swallowed, for the ones who walked away and never returned. They come at dusk, when the world softens. They eat and they remember." Zina frowned. "But Mama, the people say you cook with the water from your feet. Why do you do that?" Mama Nnenna's face grew still. Her eyes reflected the fire. "Because the feet are what carry us through this world. Dust clings to them. Pain walks with them. Joy dances in them. To wash them is to wash memory. When I wash, I give myself to the ones I feed. They taste my journey, my sorrow, my love. That is why they never go hungry." Zina shivered. She did not fully understand, but her heart felt something, a strange mixture of fear and pity. "Mama," she whispered, "are you not afraid that the people will chase you away? They say your rice is not clean." Mama Nnenna turned her gaze to the bridge, while the shadows stretched long. "The people speak because they do not see. They fear what they do not understand. But child, the dead also fear hunger. Who will feed them if not someone like me?" The words fell heavy into Zina's chest. She thought of the graves in the bush, the small mounds where forgotten people rested. Did her great-grandfather, whose name she barely knew, too, come at dusk to eat Mama Nnenna's rice? The night deepened. The frogs sang louder. From somewhere near the trees, an owl called. Zina sat close to the fire, and though she wanted to run back home, her legs would not move. She stayed, listening to the bubbling pot and the soft breathing of the woman beside her. When the rice was ready, Mama Nnenna lifted the lid. Steam poured out, white and thick. She stirred slowly. then scooped a portion into a small wooden bowl and set it beside the fire and said nothing. Zina looked around, but there was no one else. "Mama," she asked, "why did you put the food there? Who will eat it?" "Wait," Mama Nnenna whispered. The wind shifted, the flames danced higher, and Zina thought, just for a moment, that she saw shapes moving near the edge of the firelight. Not clear shapes, but shadows that bent, like people bowing their heads. She gasped and covered her mouth. The air felt suddenly crowded, though she could see no one. Mama Nnenna closed her eyes. "They are here." Zina's heart pounded. She wanted to scream, to run, to wake the whole village. But something inside her told her to keep quiet, to watch, and to learn. After a long while, Mama Nnenna opened her eyes again. The bowl was empty. The rice had vanished. Zina pressed her hand to her chest. "Mama, it is true." "Yes," Mama Nnenna said, simply. "Now you know." Zina did not know what to say. Her mouth opened, but no words came. She stared at the empty bowl, the bubbling pot, and the quiet woman who stirred it without fear. That night, as Zina finally walked home, the air felt different. She felt she was carrying a secret too heavy for her small shoulders. She knew that once you see, you cannot unsee. And once you ask why, you must be ready for the answer. My people, you see as Zina don't open her mouth anyhow. Curiosity nearly carry her go where strong men no dey fit stand o. But if you too want to hear what will happen next, abeg, no dull yourself. Subscribe to this channel sharp before Mama Nnenna spirit come and collect your own dinner plate. Na play I dey play o, but press that button quick.
Her blanket too light. She heard every sound, the frogs croaking in the bush, the cricket songs, even the distant cough of an old man. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the shadows bending by the fire and the rice disappearing as if eaten by invisible mouths. She turned from side to side until her grandmother scolded her in the morning. "If you twist like this again, you will squeeze all the dreams out of the night," Mama Ikeji said. But Zina could not explain. Some secrets are too heavy to throw into another person's lap. Days passed, but her heart kept returning to Mama Nnenna's hut by the stream. She tried to forget. She tried to focus on grinding pepper, fetching water, and helping her mother in the market. But every evening, when the smell of rice floated through the village, her mind would leave her body and wander to the fire, the pot, and the woman who stirred for spirits. The whispers in the village also grew stronger. One man swore that his brother fell sick after buying rice from Mama Nnenna. Another woman said her dreams were filled with voices calling her name after she passed by the hut. Fear started to grow like weeds, fast and choking. Some said the elders must intervene before something worse happened. Others said it was better to leave her alone. The spirits she served might turn their anger on anyone who disturbed her. One evening, when the moon was full and fat like a calabash, Zina's feet betrayed her again. She told her grandmother she was going to fetch herbs from the bush, but her path led her straight to the stream. The sound of the water flowing under the bridge was calm, but her heart beat like a drum in a festival. Mama Nnenna was already by her fire, her wrapper tied tightly, her hair covered with a faded scarf. The pot boiled, the spoon turned, the smell thickened. Without fear this time, she sat quietly on the same stool she had used before. The woman did not look surprised to see her. She only said, "You have returned. Once a child drinks from the river of secrets, she will always come back thirsty." Zina folded her hands on her lap. "Mama, I want to know, who are the ones you feed? Are they the people we buried, or are they something else?" Mama Nnenna stared, then paused. Her eyes lifted to the sky, where the moon sat like a bright eye watching them both. "Child, listen well. Every family in this village has names they no longer call. Some died in war, some drowned in the river, some left for the city and never returned. But the earth remembers, the air remembers, and hunger remembers. When I cook, I call them back. When I wash my feet, I give them the road to follow. They come, they eat, and they rest again. If I stop, they will wander, restless and trouble the living." Zina's eyes grew wide. So it is true. The dead are here with us? They are always here. Only the careless forget. I remember, so they trust me. That is why the pot never finishes. It is not for my strength, but for theirs. They stretch the food themselves. As she spoke, the fire crackled louder and the shadows around them thickened. Zina felt the air shift, heavy like rain before a storm. She could not see clearly, but she sensed shapes moving again, slow and patient, as though waiting for permission. Mama Nnenna placed another bowl of rice beside the fire. This time, Zina kept her eyes open. She wanted to see everything. At first, the bowl looked ordinary, steam curling from the top. Then, the air shimmered, and she saw hands, thin, pale, not like the hands of the living, reach out and take the food. She gasped and nearly fell from the stool. The rice vanished, grain by grain, though no living mouth touched it. The woman beside her did not flinch. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were wet. She said quietly, "That one was my son. He loved rice more than yam. Every night he comes first." Zina turned to her sharply. "But your son?" But the people said, "Yes." Mama Nnenna cut her off gently. They said many things. Some said he ran to the city. Some said he drowned in the river. But the truth, child, is this. He died in the war many seasons ago. His body was never brought home. I was left with nothing but silence. So I cooked for him and for all the ones like him who were forgotten. Zina's heart clenched. She thought of her own mother and father, alive and strong. She thought of how she would cry if they were lost. A tear slipped down her cheek, though she quickly wiped it away. The night grew deeper. The fire glowed bright. More bowls were placed, more rice disappeared, more shadows bent and moved. Zina wanted to scream, but she also felt a strange peace. The dead were not monsters. They were only hungry souls, longing to be remembered. When the last bowl was empty, Mama Nnenna sat heavily on her stool. She looked tired, older than she had at the start of the night. Her hands shook slightly as she covered the pot. "This is my budding child. This is my gift. I cook so the living can sleep without fear. I cook so the forgotten can rest without hunger." Zina sat silent, her mind turning like the spoon in the pot. She understood more now, but she also carried more questions. Why had the village chosen fear instead of compassion? Why had they left this woman to carry such weight alone? When the first cock crowed in the distance, Mama Nnenna turned to her. "You must go. The spirits have eaten. The morning belongs to the living." Zina rose, her legs trembling. She wanted to thank the woman, but her throat was tight. She walked across the bridge, the moonlight guiding her until the huts of the village came into view. Behind her, the fire dimmed. Ahead of her, the whispers waited. She knew she would carry the truth like a secret stone in her chest. And soon, she would have to choose whether to keep it hidden or let it fall into the ears of others. The spirits had eaten. The living would awake. And Zina, the girl who asked why, now held answers too heavy for a child's heart.
The whispers in the village grew louder with each passing day. By now, everyone had a story to tell about Mama Nnenna and her endless pot of rice. Some swore they saw strange lights flicker by the footbridge at night. Others said they heard voices chanting softly around her hut. The children no longer played near the stream, and the women began to fetch water in groups, hurrying past her hut with heads turned away. Fear was spreading like fire in dry grass. The elders finally gathered under the great silk cotton tree. Their faces were lined with worry, their voices heavy with suspicion. "This woman brings danger to us," Papa Ikume said. "She feeds spirits, and if she continues, those spirits may demand more than rice." Others nodded in agreement. Yet a few of the elders, their voices softer, argued differently. "But if she stops, perhaps those spirits will become angry. Perhaps they will turn their hunger toward us." No one could agree. But in their silence, something else happened. The decision began to form itself. Mama Nnenna's cooking had to end. Zina heard of this plan and felt her stomach twist. She remembered the night she had sat by the fire, the shadows bending over the bowls of rice, and the soft voice of Mama Nnenna saying, "I cook so the living can sleep without fear." She wanted to shout the truth, to tell everyone that the woman was not evil, but chosen, carrying a burden no one else dared to touch. Yet she was only a child. In the gathering of elders, her voice would be drowned like a stone in a river. That evening, Zina's heart refused to stay quiet. She slipped from her home once again and hurried toward the stream. When she reached the footbridge, she found Mama Nnenna already preparing the pot. The fire burned higher than usual, and the smell of rice filled the air so strongly that Zina felt dizzy. But something was different. The woman's hands shook as she stared. Her eyes glistened, not with the calm of duty, but with the weight of farewell. "Child," Mama Nnenna said, noticing Zina's arrival, "tonight is the last cooking." Zina froze. "Why, Mama?" "The elders have spoken," she replied. "They will not allow it anymore. They fear what they do not understand." She paused, her gaze distant. "But the spirits know. They have come to say goodbye." The pot bubbled fiercely, and the flames cracked like angry voices. Zina sat quietly, watching as Mama Nnenna washed her feet slowly, carefully, as though marking the act for the last time. She poured the rice into the water, and the steam rose thick and white, curling into the night sky like the breath of ancestors. Then it happened. The air shifted again, heavier than before. Zina's hair stood on end. The shadows appeared, not faint and wavering this time, but strong, tall, and clear. Men, women, and children, with faces pale as moonlight, stepped into the circle of fire. Their eyes were deep wells of memory. They moved toward the pot, toward the bowls that Mama Nnenna laid out with trembling hands. One by one, they bent, eating the rice in silence. Zina's eyes widened, her breath caught, but she did not run. She watched. She saw the boy who had been Mama Nnenna's son, his smile faint, his form thin like smoke. She saw old men with staff-shaped shadows, young girls with hair braided in ghostly rows. They ate with dignity like honored guests. Tears streamed down Mama Nnenna's cheeks as she whispered, "Eat, my children, eat for the last time." Zina felt her chest ache. She wanted to speak, to beg the woman not to stop. But deep inside, she knew this was not her choice to make. This was the ending of something sacred. When the bowls were empty, the shadows did not vanish at once. They turned toward Mama Nnenna and bowed. She bowed back, her hands shaking. Then slowly, they dissolved into the night, their forms breaking apart like smoke carried by wind. The fire dimmed. The air grew light again. Mama Nnenna sat heavily on her stool. Her shoulders slumped, her face pale. The pot was covered, silent now. She looked at Zina and spoke with a tired smile. "Child, you have seen. You will remember. And perhaps one day, when people forget again, you will tell this story." Zina nodded, tears hot on her cheeks. "I will, Mama. I will never forget." The cock crowed in the distance, announcing dawn. Mama Nnenna's eyes closed and she whispered one last time, "The living forget, but the spirits remember." When the sun rose, the people of the village found her hut quiet. The pot was cold, the fire was out, and Mama Nnenna was gone. Some said she joined the spirits she had fed. Others believed she walked away into the forest to rest where no one could disturb her. But Zina knew better. Mama Nnenna had given her the truth, heavy but sacred. And from that day on, when the wind carried the smell of rice, Zina alone would smile, knowing the spirits were still near, still remembering. My people, you see as Mama Nnenna just disappear like NEPA light. This kind story no be beans at all. Now tell me, if na your village, you go chop that rice or you go run? Abeg, drop your answer for the comments before your own ancestors vex say you no talk o. And as you dey type, don't forget to like this video, because if you don't, I fit send Mama Nnenna herself come knock your door with one hot pot of ghost rice o. Na play I dey play o, but like and comment sharp sharp.